The Bad Batch Season 3, Episode 12 is here, and he's back! From the prison extraction of the former Vice Admiral Rampart to all the extremely important information that we got about Omega in the very little screen time that we had with her, this episode teed us off into the final arc of this Bad Batch series. But with 3 episodes left, there's a lot in this 12th episode that you might have missed, so let's break this all down. Episode 12, Juggernaut, opens on Mount Tantus, with Omega arriving in the Flying Dorito. The clone assassin brought her there. Now, we still don't know who this clone assassin is. Could it be Tech? Could it be Commander Cody? Could it be a clone of Crosshair? Could it be nobody? You tell me who you think the clone assassin is in the comment section below, but he just drops Omega off and then leaves for the rest of the episode. But what was strange about this scene was that Hemlock came to get Omega by himself, when almost everybody else who arrives on Mount Tantus has been greeted with a party of stormtroopers or clone troopers or scientists. Dr. Hemlock was the only one there, and it was the middle of the night. It almost felt like they were sneaking Omega in. But Hemlock teases Omega's importance to what they're doing here and brings her to Emery, her clone sister, to make sure that her blood truly has the ability to transfer the midichlorians from a force sensitive to a clone. We see Hemlock still messing with his left hand that has a black glove on it, and I still think there's a lot of Hemlock's story that we don't really know much about yet, but some of that might be revealed in these last 3 episodes. Hemlock leaves, and Omega goes to Emery and tells her that she doesn't have to do this. And although I do think that Emery will turn and we'll get this big twist like I mentioned in this video right here, with Omega and Emery being the reason that the Bad Batch actually find the location of the Mount Tantus base, right now Emery still believes that she needs to do this. She still works for the Empire. She still thinks she's doing the right thing. But all of that might change. As Emery says, "I'm just glad you're safe." And Omega says, "Am I?" Which again, I think is just leading to Emery turning on the Empire. We cut back to Pabu, where the Empire is just leaving. Now, I've seen already online, a lot of fans are upset about this. The Empire just up and leaving after they've captured Omega, even though the other members of the Bad Batch are still around. But in the last episode, from the Empire's perspective, they saw Wrecker get blown up, Hunter get shot out of the air and thrown into the ocean, and they got what they came for with Omega being captured. In this island of Pabu, in the middle of nowhere, with no army and no resources, is no use to the Empire. So to me, it makes sense that they left Pabu, but tell me in the comments if you disagree. We get a conversation between Crosshair, Wrecker, and Hunter, as Wrecker says, "I can't believe that you let Omega go." To which Crosshair responds, "Well, the Empire would have destroyed this entire island if that hadn't happened." And in the last episode, it was Omega's decision to do this. Crosshair was trying to find another way. So Wrecker points out the obvious. The Empire has the kid, the Marauder was just destroyed, and we still have no idea where the Tantus base is. To which Crosshair grabs his right hand and says that that's not exactly true. Now, Crosshair grabbing his right hand, we've seen this before in this 3rd season. He clearly went through something traumatic on Mount Tantus that we still really don't know much about. We know that he was involved in the clone assassin program, but I feel like there's still a missing piece to the puzzle when it comes to Crosshair's time on Mount Tantus. Not to mention that he's grabbing his right hand while Hemlock is grabbing his left. There might be something there. He says that Admiral Rampart would know where Tantus is, because he sent Nala Se there after the destruction of Topoka City at the end of Season 1 of The Bad Batch. And Hunter said, "Well, why wouldn't you bring this up sooner?" To which Crosshair responds with, "I don't ever want to go back to Mount Tantus, but also because Rampart's not very trustworthy, and it's sort of a last resort. And it's their only option. Omega has been taken back to Tantus, so it's become the most important thing for them to really find out the location of this place." And Crosshair knows where Rampart was sent because he was still with the Empire when he was arrested. But they are interrupted by Fee and AZ. Fee saw the Imperial ship outside and snuck in. Crosshair says, "We're going to need to borrow your ship." And Fee says, "You must be Crosshair. Tech told me so much about you. And any friend of Brown Eyes is a friend of mine." Again, a lot of fans think that Tech survived this fall in Season 2 and could be the clone assassin that is in this episode, but I just don't think so. I think leaving Tech dead is probably the best bet. His death at the end of Season 2 was just so meaningful, and if they brought him back, it just wouldn't be the same. Crosshair tells them that there's an Imperial base on Erebus. That's where Rampart was sent. Now, Erebus is not just some throwaway name. Although we have never been to Erebus in Star Wars canon, there is a Sith Lord from Legends named Darth Erebus. Another subtle call to Legends material in Star Wars. We cut to Erebus where we see this Imperial prison, where we see a Juggernaut, the title of the episode, the same Imperial transportation that we've seen in The Mandalorian Season 2. And this is not the first similarity to The Mandalorian in these last 2 episodes of The Bad Batch. Last episode we saw the destruction of the Marauder and Omega being captured by the Empire. In The Mandalorian Season 2, Chapter 14, we see the Razor Crest be blown up and Grogu be taken by the Empire. And in the very following episode, Chapter 15, The Believer, we see a Juggernaut with Din Djarin and Bill Burr's character Mayfeld break into an Imperial facility for intel on where Grogu is. In a very similar way, in this Bad Batch Season 3, Episode 12, the Bad Batch are trying to get information on where Omega is. But we see these prisoners take the Juggernaut out to the mining area, and we see Rampart, no longer an admiral after he was arrested in Season 2 for the destruction of Tipoca City. He's now supporting a nice beard, and he's working with an Ugnaught. We've seen Ugnaughts throughout Star Wars for a long time in Star Wars Rebels, in Empire Strikes Back, and even in The Mandalorian. We cut to the Bad Batch and Fee planning this extraction. Fee says that she can get them past the sensors and drop them off, but as soon as they're in the reach of the Imperial labor camp, they won't have comms and she won't be able to rescue them. So we get to see Fee drop them off and get them through the first line of defense. The Bad Batch make it through to one of the terminals so that they know when the Juggernaut is coming through. We then cut back to Rampart and the other prisoners as they're loading onto the Juggernaut. And not only is Rampart with an Ugnaught and a Trandoshan, but there's also a Lasat. The Lasats were all but extinct after the Empire went in and destroyed most of their planet. Now, the most iconic Lasat in Star Wars is Zeb Aurelius from Star Wars Rebels. Now, I don't think this is him, but this is very significant because the Lasats were all but wiped out by the Empire. But we get to see the prison extraction that we've all been waiting for, with Hunter, Crosshair, and Wrecker getting on the Juggernaut and making their grand escape, getting across the bridge and fighting off a bunch of stormtroopers, finally getting far enough so that Fee can come in and save the day as they extract Rampart. Now, Rampart immediately recognizes Crosshair, calling him by his chain code CT9904. Rampart says he's not talking until he gets off this planet until they save him. Now, although Rampart is very evil and you can't really trust him, he's not going to be working for the Empire anytime soon after what he did, so although the Bad Batch can't really trust him, he has no other options. But the Bad Batch escape with Rampart and ask him where the base of Tantus is. To which Rampart responds with, "It's more complicated than that. No one knows the coordinates of Tantus. That's why it's kept such a secret." But he claims that he might know a way around that. Now, this episode is not over, but it leaves us on a cliffhanger with what the hell does Rampart know, and how are the Bad Batch going to find Mount Tantus? Your guess is as good as mine, so tell me in the comments what you think Rampart is thinking here. But the episode ends on Mount Tantus, and a lot of key information is given to us in these scenes. It is confirmed by Emery that Omega's blood does have the capability of transferring midichlorians. Omega asks, what does that mean? To which Hemlock responds with, "I'll show you." And he takes her to the vault. Hemlock explains that an M count or midichlorians cannot be directly replicated, meaning you can't just take somebody's midichlorians and put them in a different host.
That's not how the Force works.
He says they've tried everything, mixing up samples from their other test subjects, but nothing works. Until we finally combined your sample with one of our M-count specimens. And they come upon the room that we saw in last week's episodes with the 3 Force-sensitive kids in this room. And that's it. That's the end of the episode. Now, I thought this episode was really good. Some people have been calling it a filler, but that's not the case at all. Getting Rampart out of that prison and finding out the location of Mount Tantus is the utmost importance for the Bad Batch. And we got some very crucial information about Omega and her abilities. Or should I say the ability of her blood to transfer midichlorians to a clone host, teeing us up for an incredible final 3 episodes or the finale of this series. I give this episode a 7.8 out of 10. Obviously, tell me your ranking in the comments section below, but I thought this was a perfect stepping stone to lead us into these final 3 episodes. Bringing back Rampart, the villain of the first 2 seasons, as an ally is just great writing, and there's still so much information about Hemlock and Crosshair's time on Tantus that needs to be revealed. And we gotta find out who is under that mask. But if you want all the evidence as to why I think it could be this person, go check out this video I just did right here.